Friends, before starting today's horror story, I would like to tell you a very interesting stat. 80% of our viewers who watch our stories haven't subscribed to our channel. And if you are one of them, you have to do a small task where you have to click to the subscribe button and also press the bell icon so that you are the first to get the notification as soon as our video arrives. Summer camp. Everyone loves summer vacation in their childhood, and we would have attended summer camp at least once in our lives. But what if this summer camp becomes one of the most horrifying incidents of our lives? In the summer of 2010, George, who was 14 years old, was excited to go to a camp in the mountains. The camp was near his grandparents' house, so he stayed with them for a few days before the camp started. His grandfather had already spoken to the camp organizer, who promised to pick up George from a certain spot on the way. On the day of pickup, George and his grandfather arrived at the location. It was a quiet place surrounded by tall trees and hills. They looked around but did not see any bus. His grandfather checked his watch. The bus should have arrived by now. Feeling worried, his grandfather tried calling the camp organizer, but there was no signal. The phone was out of network coverage. They waited for a long time, but nobody came. The road was empty, and the air was still. George and his grandfather did not know what to do. Did the bus get delayed? Had they come to the wrong place? The quiet surroundings made George feel uneasy. Something didn't feel right. They decided to wait a little longer, hoping the bus would finally arrive. George's grandfather decided to take him to the campsite himself. They traveled through the mountain roads and reached the site by evening. Since the camp was a little far from the main road, his grandfather walked with him until they arrived. The camp organizer greeted them, but when George's grandfather angrily asked why they hadn't picked up George, the organizer stayed silent. After dropping off George, his grandfather said goodbye and left for home. As George looked around the campsite, he noticed something strange. All the children were sitting quietly in a circle, staring at him without saying a word. Their faces had no expressions, and the silence felt eerie. Once his grandfather left, the camp organizer also walked away without a word. Confused, George decided to explore the campsite. As he walked, he found a tent with his name written on it. He placed his bag inside and returned to the circle where the other children were sitting. He slowly took a seat among them, wondering why everyone was acting so strangely. The air around him felt heavy, and something didn't seem right. As George sat with the other kids, he noticed their eyes fixed on him in a strange way. He tried speaking to a few of them, but no one answered. Their silent stares made him uncomfortable. Suddenly, one boy stood up, grabbed a large stone from the ground, and ran toward him. Before George could react, the other kids also stood up and rushed toward him, their faces full of anger. Terrified, George called for the camp organizer again and again, but no one responded. Panic surged through him, and he quickly ran to his tent, hiding inside. The moment he entered, everything outside fell into complete silence. It felt as if no one was there anymore. Evening turned into night, and the darkness surrounded the campsite. As George peeked outside, he saw a girl in the distance, digging the ground with great force. Gathering courage, he walked toward her and asked what she was doing. She didn't stop digging, her movements wild and furious. When he asked again, she turned to him with angry eyes and said, "I'm digging your grave." George's heart pounded in fear, and he ran away as fast as he could. He knew something was terribly wrong with the camp and decided to leave immediately. He thought of calling his grandfather and ran toward the organizer's tent. When he looked inside, the tent was empty. Confused, he stepped closer, but suddenly he felt a strong push from behind. He lost balance and fell inside the tent. His mind raced. Who had pushed him? What was going on in this camp? Fear tightened his chest as he tried to make sense of the terrifying events unfolding around him in the camp. When George turned around, he was shocked. Standing before him was the camp organizer, and with him were 24 other children from the camp. But something was terribly wrong. Their bodies looked strange. Some had broken bones, while others appeared completely burned. Their hollow eyes stared at George, and each of them held some kind of tool in their hands. The organizer stepped forward, gripping a hammer tightly. Fear surged through George as he screamed for help. He covered his face with his hands, trying to block out the terrifying sight. Suddenly, someone held his hands and called his name. George slowly opened his eyes and gasped. It was his grandfather sitting in front of him. Without saying a word, his grandfather grabbed his hand and led him out of the tent. George, still trembling, followed. His tears streamed down his face as they hurried toward the car. As they drove away, strange sounds filled the air. Screams and cries echoed behind them. George's grandfather remained silent, focused on the road ahead, while George sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. They drove for a long time, finally stopping after 70 kilometers. His grandfather turned to him, concern in his eyes, and gently asked how he was feeling. At that moment, George broke down completely. Tears poured down his face as he told his grandfather everything: the strange children, the eerie silence, the girl digging his grave, and the terrifying organizer. His grandfather listened quietly, his face serious and unreadable. George knew one thing for sure: he never wanted to return to that campsite again. Whatever had happened there was beyond explanation, and he was lucky to escape. But deep inside, he feared that the nightmares would follow him forever. George's grandfather hugged him tightly, sensing his fear and exhaustion. He gently held George's hands and spoke in a calm but serious tone. What he said next made George's blood turn cold. His grandfather explained that while driving home, his phone had lost signal. When it finally regained network, he received a call from the summer camp team. They sounded anxious and told him they had been trying to contact him for a long time. Then they shared horrifying news. The camp bus carrying the organizer and all the children had met with a terrible accident. The crash had been deadly. No one survived. Every single person, including the organizer and the children, had lost their lives on the way to the campsite. The moment his grandfather heard this, he turned his car around immediately and rushed back to save George. He knew something was terribly wrong. If the camp organizer and the children were already dead, then who had George been interacting with at the campsite? Who were the children who sat in a silent circle? And what was the terrifying figure that had chased him? George felt his body shiver as the realization hit him. He had not just visited a campsite, he had stepped into a place haunted by restless souls. The presence he felt, the eerie silence, and the terrifying figures had not been normal. He had faced something beyond human understanding. Tears continued to stream down George's face. His grandfather did not let go of him, holding him tightly as if reassuring him that he was safe now. They sat in silence for a while, processing everything. The echoes of the haunted campsite still rang in George's ears. After that day, George never went to another summer camp again. No matter how much time passed, the memories of that horrifying night never faded. The cries, the silent stares, and the chilling words of the girl digging his grave remained in his mind. He had escaped death twice, but the terror stayed with him forever. Though his grandfather had saved him, some part of George felt that the spirits would always watch him, waiting in the shadows. If you like the story, then do subscribe to our channel, Bloody Monday, and keep watching for more such spine-chilling horror videos. Please do share the videos with your friends and family so that we could get motivation for uploading more of such spooky videos. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on any of our eerie, heart-pounding videos. Keep watching and stay brave.